We're live in the studio as well. Once again, very good morning to you, Lagos, Nigeria, the entire world, wherever it is you're listening to us. This is Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m. Second day in the month of April 2025. Yes, it's the first working day of the week after the very long weekend. And I'm glad to be here as we get to walk into the world of the papers. This is Freshly Pressed, where we take a look at the stories making the headlines and making the rounds, and we get analysis as well. Your thoughts, your contributions will also follow. And you can do that as always by sending your messages into us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. All right, joining me this morning to analyze the stories and give us their perspective, break it down for us, give us an understanding, if I can put it that way. It's Lakunle and Devoe. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Ayo. I hope you had a wonderful 4-day weekend. I did, and I spent some time out of Lagos as well. So I have some real good, fresh oxygen that I can share a little with you.
It seems like you're rubbing this in because you know I was here in the studio, but I will not drag it beyond that. Devoe, good morning to you.
We can't hear you.
Devoe, good morning. Can you hear me better now?
No, it's not. But morning world, morning Lagos, AY, Lakunle. Eku, if you ododo me, I will Natasha you.
We'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually because that's definitely been in the news. We'll talk about that when it is a time to do so. But Devoe, I want us to begin this morning talking about issues that have to do with the central bank. Now we'll take this out of the Daily Post, where the central bank, the CBN has
Central Bank
reported.
or NNPC?
The central bank. I'm starting with the central bank on this one, unless you want us to start with the NNPC.
Yeah, the NNPC story, please.
Okay, so the NNPC story. Okay, so this is coming out of the Guardian, where President Bola Tinubu has appointed engineer Bayo Ojulari to replace Mele Kyari as the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited Group's chief executive officer. Presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga in a statement said Tinubu also sacked the NNPCL board chairman, Chief Pius Akinyelure, and replaced him with Amadu Musa Kida. Tinubu removed all other board members appointed with Akinyelure and Kyari in November 2023. Well, Kyari out the door. This has been clamored for the longest time. He's been there since 2019, if memory serves me correctly. So it's going to be a new board of the NNPCL. But Devoe, what do you think this spells for the NNPCL and the oil sector in Nigeria going forward?
Yes, why I said so, because it's breaking news. The circular just went out sometime around 4 a.m. this morning. Most press have picked it up. As you know, for many who have clamored the bad or poor crisis and leadership crisis that's been going on with our oil and gas sector, especially with the NNPC, many felt that the leadership had underperformed because they had overstayed. Even though most times with each administration comes a new presidency, Mele Kyari had led the NNPC upwards almost 15 years. And with the chairman, Akinrele, that was appointed with the Tinubu administration, yesterday, Tinubu, under the Petroleum Industry Act, invoked a change of management, both at the board level. So you now have a new group CEO, as well as a new chairman, and then new board members that represent every geopolitical zone. And the expectation is that they will, first of all, drive this administration's targets of improving oil production to about 2 million barrels per day. You know, we're roughly around 1.1, 1.2. If you add the gas condensate component, it comes up to 1.5. But the point is, Nigeria for many years now has lost out on the oil production aspect, which means lower earnings and revenues for Nigeria, which is part of the
Right.
one of the major reasons why we're going through the economic crisis that we're going through outside the debt situation and most notably corruption, the crude oil theft.
Devoe, are you there?
So this
Okay.
drive investment. Can you hear me?
Yes, you just went out very briefly, but we can hear
Hello?
you now. Go ahead.
Can you hear
We
me?
can hear you now. Yes, we can.
Okay, so this new board will be tasked to drive investments into the industry. Um, I think the 11 or 13 of them are sitting on top of a 60 trillion naira company. NNPC is big, so they'll be invested on optimizing the assets that NNPC has. Whilst NNPC did, let's call it a partial liberalization, where they said it's now owned by the public as well as the government. Many have said that they should actually sell their shares to the market, like companies like Saudi Aramco. You know, some have
Mm,
also said that maybe the government needs to sell down. Right. They need to sell down the NNPC as an asset like they did the NLNG so that you can have proper private sector ownership to drive proper management leadership. Okay.
okay. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
NNPC is one of the biggest companies in Africa, and it should be run well. So, just a brief background: Bayo Ojulari used to be the MD of Snepco, that's a shell company, whilst the chairman used to be an MD of one of the Total Elfina companies. So, I believe it's in good hands. What we want to ensure is that the NNPC management does not get politicized, that they do their jobs
Mm,
and actually drive NNPC into a proper multinational status that improves the revenues and commonwealth of Nigeria.
mm. Indeed, we really hope that that's going to happen because we know of all the ups and downs and issues concerning the oil sector in Nigeria in the last couple of years. So this new board have a very big job on their hands because, on the other hand, Nigerians have lost a lot of faith in what's been going on within that sector. Can they regain the faith of the people and take that sector forward? It remains to be seen. But we keep things moving right now, heading into the Premium Times newspaper, Lakunle. I'm coming to you with this one. Let's talk about health issues. Very, very important that we highlight this particular one. And the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the NCDC, has raised concerns over the increasing number of cerebrospinal meningitis CSM cases across the country, saying its peak season is between November and May. Now, the latest figures indicate a surge in infections with 807 suspected cases and 74 deaths reported across 22 states and the Federal Capital Territory as of the 26th of March, 2025. This is another issue that we're dealing with in the country, like only meningitis. Lassa fever has not abated yet. There was also the outbreak of diphtheria as well. So it's like in the health sector, we're battling with different things. Now, couple everything with the Jacques syndrome as well. It just seems to be basketballs left, right, and center when it comes to health sector in Nigeria.
Um, my thoughts basically about things like this is one of them is that poverty and diseases are children of the same parents, and it is highly likely anywhere in the world where any disease is prevalent, there's poverty in that place. And in anywhere where poverty is prevalent, diseases are always accompanying them because
Mm,
one, living conditions are poor, no proper sanitary conditions, the sanitary conditions are poor,
right.
no access to medical facilities, self-medication happens, and so on and so forth. People are always densely, such places are densely
Densely populated, yeah.
populated, and so on and so forth. Ventilation is poor and so on. So you can then imagine that according to what we hear, that the World Bank proposes that about 65% or so, yeah, of Nigerians live below the poverty line. So you then imagine then if 65% of 220 million people, that's also a projection. I don't agree with that number anyway.
You think it's higher?
I think it's lower, pretty much lower
Okay.
by every other statistics that we have that we can validate. I think we're pretty much lower than 200. Yeah, but that's a conversation for another day. But my point I'm trying to get at is that it is not likely that we'll get out of this cycle of disease outbreaks. You mentioned them: lesser fever, diphtheria, uh, polio, and so on. So when we look at it from that perspective, then we need to go and treat what the problem is. The problem is not the disease itself anymore at this point. The problem is, what are we doing to address the root cause of the disease, the poverty? Now, if we're able to address that to some point, that people can afford or can have access to those things, good drinking water, they are not living in poor conditions, the drainages where they live are drained, proper waste disposal, and so on and so. If we're able to address all those things, right, the incidents then that would fall ill will reduce. The need to go to the hospital will also reduce. But this story, as a way, should also serve as a public service announcement to people. Um, Meningitis does not kill the day it happens. It's a progressive infection, bacterial infection. You have things they call your stiff neck, the high fever, sleeplessness, and so on and so on. And so, my advice: when you feel any of those things, please talk to a medical professional. Do not self-medicate. And this thing is highly contagious and infectious. You can transfer by ordinary breathing, sneezing, cough. I'm not sure if you sleep next to someone who was already infected, you would not be infected. But one needs to know that it is highly infectious and it silently kills. Now, we've been told that it's in 22 states across the country. Borno, Yobe, Sokoto, being the places where the deaths have been announced. Whether it's here in Lagos with us now, we don't know. Lagos State government hasn't alerted us as to that effect, but we need to be wary of these things. And then one thing that I get to worry about is that it is becoming cliche, just like your oil and gas will say, NNPC used to say in those days, we have whatever to last for the next 3 months. It's becoming cliche with NCDC as well to say that we have put in place machinery to da. And then there's also the vaccine aspect of it. What are we doing to make vaccines available at every spot? The public service announcement to make it go to the places where people really need to believe that they need to take these vaccines to prevent this infection. And so those are the levels of perspectives that I have to look at this thing, and we need to work at all of them.
We definitely need to work at all of them, and everybody needs to be aware of what is going on. The knowledge, the information, it is very, very key in fighting a number of these infectious diseases. And we really hope that it begins to, should I say, multiply in terms of those who have the knowledge, because as I always say, when you know better, you definitely can do better as things get along. Let me sneak a message or two in as we move on. Ajayi Olunilowa in Magudu Sherry says, it's good riddance as the hitherto untouchable Mele Kyari has been finally removed as the CEO of NNPCL. Now, Dangote Refinery and indeed Nigerians can now feel a sign of relief while hoping that the incoming CEO will not only make fuel available, but at an affordable price. Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts there, Jay. Gilbert Musa says, on the recent change in top management of the NNPCL, I am not really at rest. Reason, since Engineer Funcha Kupoluko's tenure as NNPC MD in 2003, we have had several changes in management of the NNPC. Now, the question is, what value did the numerous changes in top management of the NNPCL add to our oil output since 2003 till date? The answer is blowing in the wind. Thank you, Gilbert Musa, for always taking us back bringing up some very, very important dates. Emeka says cerebrospinal meningitis, from what we're taught in medical school, is prevalent during the hot, drier seasons. You can tell that the heat in the last few months was worse than usual, and that may have been a factor in the spread of the disease. All right, Emeka, thank you for sharing your medical perspective on that one. All right, let's get back into the stories. Devoe, let's jump into the point. Let's talk about Naira for crude. That has been raging back and forth very, very recently. And there are indications that the Naira for crude policy of the federal government may continue as impeccable. I wonder why they call it impeccable. Insider sources familiar with the development insisted on Monday that all parties involved in the deal would reconvene soon. And now the first phase of the 6-month deal involving the federal government, Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, and Dangote Petroleum Refinery ended on March 31st, 2025. That was just 2 days ago. That was on Monday. And talks have been going on for at least for a while. And according to insider sources, they could come to an agreement, which will be to the benefit of everyone. Devoe. You're muted, Devoe. Are you still with us, Devoe?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear muted. Me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The problem here is that it's apparent that almost every attempt for the government to support local entrepreneurs in this issue have been thwarted. And in this instance, starting from them calling their product substandard to them saying that they could not fulfill the arrangement by the PIA, which the president gave go ahead for crude to be supplied to local producers. The first batch they did, because they were supposed to be given about 385,000 barrels, of which Dangote got about 280 something, you know. Then from that, it moved to 100. Then from that, I think the last time they got was about 10,000 barrels. Literally, they were not able to fulfill it. And Dangote, as any business would, you can't wait for a government that is wasting your time. So literally, they have been importing crude into the country, which is the biggest shame for one of the top oil producing nations. So the back and forth as to, the deal will be renewed, etc. We don't need to hear that. Make the crude available. As you can see, because they import the crude, you check the crude rates. If the crude rate goes up, given the exchange rates, the price of the refined product will also increase, which is why you now see the Dangote MRS fuel price move from 830, 860 to about 960 in most parts of the country. So it's left to us at the end of the day, if we're going to be on serious as a nation, as to supporting local oil producing investors. You now see the hard job that Bayo, Ojulari, and the new chairman have, Ahmed Kida, in also driving investments in the petroleum sector, because it's just literally disheartening that as a nation we do this to our own local investors. I mean, what you want is to have a net exporter of petroleum product, which Dangote has become. But being a petroleum nation, that crude should have been coming from Nigeria, not only as benefit to citizens, but also as revenue for the government. But right. I can assure you, as long as it's government that we're waiting for, I'm not sure that they're going to improve on the track record. I can almost bet on it. Let's wait and see.
Before you sound so confident, talking. Okay, what? Devoe sounds absolutely confident that not much is going to change. I mean, bearing in mind the antecedents and the track record, it's very difficult to feel very positive or optimistic about it. But as you said, Devoe, let us wait and see how things are going to pan out. Okay, Lakunle, let's get back in to the Punch newspaper. And as Devoe greeted us earlier on in the show, if you don't know me, and so on and so forth, well, we are heading to Kogi State, where Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan received a rousing welcome from supporters in the state on Tuesday, despite a government ban on rallies and processions. Now, supporters from Kogi Central's 5 local government areas gathered early in Ihima Okehi LGA to welcome the embattled PDP lawmaker. And she came in a white helicopter amid fanfare and so on. But one of the key things here is this issue of the ban on rallies and processions and so on and so forth. A lot has been said back and forth over the legality or illegality of the matter. Nigerian politics, Lakunle, this is it in it's all its glory, if I can put it that way.
I'd like to start by asking one of those cliche questions I ask as a Nigerian. Why do we find it difficult to manage ourselves properly? How does it happen that these are the kind of headlines that we get to hear on a daily basis? Personally, I do not agree. I've never believed that in a democracy, I need a permission to have a gathering from any law enforcement. For me to even talk to law enforcement, what I should be telling them is that we are gathering in so place. Come and provide security for me, which is their job to do. I should not be going and ask them that I need your permission to gather. As long as I am not doing anything illegal, I'm not going to do anything illegal in public space anyway, openly. Their job is to protect me and my group from being harassed, from being attacked, or from people hijacking my rally, my gathering, or whatever it is that my show, or whatever it is that I want to do. If I have to pay for the service, I will pay. Having said that, now, don't forget, the issue at stake here is not about Kogi State. It is about the senator and the Senate president. If it's going to affect Kogi State, where it affects Kogi State is that the Senate has taken a position that is denying 5 to 7 local governments of Kogi State their due representation, in which there is a Supreme Court judgment that says the Senate does not have that right to deny people their representation, to suspend, expel, or whatever a senator, except what the Constitution provided that a senator, a House of Rep member, a House of Assembly member can only be expelled from their seats if their constituents recall them, and there's a process. And what the Constitution put in that process cannot be less than between 3 to 6 months duration for it to happen. Now, there is that issue there. Suddenly, some people in Kogi decided that they want to recall Duma. No problem, it's fine to do. But here we are. There are so many things. Even the senator herself is not presenting herself in the best of ways. She's not handling the matter very well. Okay, so you have these weighty allegations against the number 3 man of the country. Put your evidences on the table. Go to a law court. Stop jumping up and down like you are making outlandish statements that you have not backed up. It gives people like me the opportunity to doubt the veracity of your claims. If they are true, put your evidences on the table. The Senate in itself, I believe, Senate is from the Latin word senus. Senus can be related to senile, not necessarily mad or not functional brain. It means people who are old, who have experience. They could have managed the situation better than they have managed so far.
Before it escalated
Before it got to where it is. I mean, so there's so many ways to look at it. It always bogs my mind that at that level, this is what this is what we're now focusing on. We're not talking about representation. We're not talking about lawmaking anymore. We're talking about 2 members of the Senate that are supposed to make law for 220 million people who have an issue with themselves. And that's taking precedence over everything else. And I think we need to be circumspect about all of these things, the way we act, the way we do things in all places. And at the end of it, it is us, the people, that are losing Look at the Kogi people now. They don't have representation for according to the ban, to the suspension, 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
So any that's going to happen in that place that may affect them. No
Nobody to speak up
representation.
for them.
Nobody to speak for them. Even if she's recalled, the process to replace her is going to cost the country money because INEC is going to mobilize to Kogi Central to organize an election, right? It's going to cost us money that could have been used maybe to build a hospital in Kogi Central or to fix a road that was once dug up in Kogi Central. You see where everything goes back to us people suffering all these things. And that's what I think that we need to be circumspect about.
We definitely need to be circumspect about these issues. Who's talking to me here? Okay, there's no name attached to the message. It says the gathering could have escalated to a riot between both factions, but the governor should not have put out such an order after she decided to visit. It was before she even visited. Not all gatherings can be stopped, but any that has to do with politics must be checked. Natasha may have won the day, but still has no evidence to bring forth till date. Well, we're waiting for what's going to happen.
She will give evidence at the end of the day, because if she does not, this is bad for her.
Most definitely. And of course, police governments have condemned the allegations that he made, and the telling us letters and have put the security agencies on notice to monitor her utterances and inflammatory actions, as they call them. All right, let's move on very quickly here. Devoe, we need to get into this story about Nigeria's net foreign exchange reserve coming out of the Daily Post. Now, they've reported that the highest net foreign exchange reserve NFER position as of the end of 2024. According to the CBN, NFER stood at $23.11 billion, the highest level in over 3 years. Very quickly, Devoe, what does this mean in simple terms?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is the first time they're reporting net reserves. Maybe because there's something there finally. But I would doubt the $23 billion that they are pushing, because for a long time, they've been pushing or disclosing the gross reserves at 40, 35, $32 billion, depending on where it's at, to make it look good. And most times we had an issue with that figure because there's a lot of encumbrance on our foreign exchange warehouse, or what I call it, foreign exchange earnings as a nation, especially because of the various loans, or what I call it, mortgages, that Nigeria has taken from bilateral bodies, Afro-Exim, from the NNPCL to even some, at the end of the day, bring some level of stability to our exchange. I understand. All I would like is for government to be extremely transparent in this disclosure of foreign reserves, okay? Because both local and external investors need it to be able to also, like I said, that they can plug the leakages that have been causing the dip in our debt situation. When you have sufficient foreign reserves, then your currency can assume a level of stability, okay? That is what is important here. So CBN should keep doing what they're doing, but we would always say this: it's not so much about the foreign reserves, it's not so much about the exchange rates or the interest rates, it's more about, can the nation make money? You can't keep shifting figures and thinking you'll be deceiving people. The country needs to sell down the assets, maybe in NNPC, raise about 20 to $30 billion, just like you've done for LNG. Privatize reform the power sector, maybe bring in the Chinese people, and then across 30 years, restore 20,000 megawatts to the grid, or sell all your transportation networks. Do something major that will drive revenue for Nigeria, and you will see stability in our economy and most of our economic factors.
All right. Thank you so very much, Devoe. Let me take your messages as we round up on the show this morning. Tony from Marine Beach says, Kerry leaving the scene is a good one, but this sack coming at a time when a crucial decision of Naira for crude Dangote is getting hotter sends a signal. What signal is that, Tony? However, replacing him with Ojulari leaves a question of where are the Chukwudis and Chukwuemekas of this world. No single respect to federal character under this administration. Really?
Let me quickly answer that. Bayo Ojulari is a Yoruba man from the North Central. So he's not representing Southwest on that thing. He just happens to be a Yoruba man. As far as Nigeria is concerned, he's a North Central man. Babs Omotowa, who is also there, is also North Central. So,
Lakunle, wash.
so I'm just saying that every geopolitical zone in Nigeria is represented on that board. Forget the names. If we talk about the geopolitical zones where they come from, that's where they are from. Because the insinuation there is that he's putting Southwest people there.
Odogu, please.
All right, let me take another message here. This is Stevie Kelly in Maryland says, Military has delivered. He has opened their eyes and led them through some secrets on how to milk the cash cow called NNPC. How do you know that, Steve? Which is why he was retained anyway. Now they have learned enough, he can be disposed. May God help this nation. Steve, how do you know? Were you there? Michael says, there should be hotlines dedicated to major health issues. If not for you guys this morning, I wouldn't have been informed about meningitis. Also, the government should not wait until there are outbreaks before sensitizing people. I mean, true story there. Ibrahim Zakari says, on the NNPCL, it's not Uhuru yet. I'm an optimist, but I think firing Mele Kyari is just window dressing. Old wine in new bottle. We deserve better. I bought PMS this morning at 930 Naira against 835 Naira. In the past, it's sad. Well, it's been going up and down. Indeed. Deja Vu says, Natasha is giving aura for aura. I think you're a Gen Z person. Uluwashei says, we all know the law banning convoys and public gatherings were aimed at her. The devil works hard, but Nigerian politicians work harder against their opponents. The actions of the Senate and the Senate president shows the Senate president is guilty. You can't say that, really. You can't say that. You really can't. Yeah. They are pained because she's beating them at their own game, despite how hard they have tried to keep her down. Well, I mean, you could say that. The game is the game at the end of the day. And Abimbola says he's thanking Devoe Lakunle for balanced news analysis every Wednesday. He wants you to come more often. Thank you, Abimbola. We appreciate your very kind words. Let me take one more.
Please print that one and let me go and hang it on my
wall. Tali says, women get harassed a lot and frequently. Once there was a training where I worked and the men began to realize some of their unwanted touches were tantamount to harassment. Natasha will probably never be able to provide evidence, but she probably needs better legal and constitutional guidance. Very important. I mean, she is a legal practitioner, if I'm correct, so she definitely should know better. We really need to go. Thank you so much for the messages. Thank you very, very much, Lakunle and Devoe, for joining us this Wednesday morning.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. And let's go do the rest of what's to be done in this April. Q2 has started. Our guys will start asking us, where are the numbers? True story. Devoe, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all for all the messages and for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere. The fun continues in the locker room at 8:15.
Wow.